I want to do this series that might be taking us a couple months. I call it Developing a Passion for God. And I'm sure it's going to be a blessing to you and to myself equally. So listen with your heart. I have a question, actually, a couple questions as I open this message tonight. Why is the world so passionless and indifferent to God? Well, it's very easy to answer. Scripture tells us in John chapter 1, verse 10 and 11, it says, Jesus was in the world, and the world was made through him, and the world did not know him. Want to ask you a question. Do you think there is a possibility that any individual anywhere in the world can be passionate about something they don't know? That wasn't rhetorical, that's a yes or no. Do you think you can be passionate about something you don't know? Of course not. So, asking the question, why is the world so passionless and indifferent to God? Really is not a question. I mean, it's just they don't know God. How can they be passionate about God? However, equally, why are so many Christians passionless towards the God of their salvation? I mean, we were all born with emotions. We all have passions. We've all experienced passions. We've all been passionate about something in our lives. Why is it around the world so many Christians are passionless towards the God of their salvation? I think maybe I put my finger on it. God freely gives us salvation, grace, favor, mercy, truth, blessings, power, deliverance, protection, provision. He even freely gives us healing. But he does not give us passion. Do you know what would have happened if God would also have given us passion for him? We would have been made robots. You know, robots doesn't have a free will. You click a button and a robot do what it's programmed to do. Well, equally, if God had given us passion for him, he would have taken away the free will we have. And therefore, God does not give us passion for him. Passion happens when you fall in love with him. Isn't that true about an earthly relationship? Passion happens when you fall in love. If you don't come to the place where you fall in love with God, you'll be passionless about God. And falling in love with him happens when you realize nothing or no one is as important than him. That's when, listen, over the next 2 months, I'm going to touch a lot of things concerning developing a passion for God. Because really and truly, many of us have not come to the place where we realize we need God. This is not just about wanting God. God can pull the plug any moment. We need God. When we come to that place where we know we need God, there is where we fall in love with God and passion starts to flow. What is passion for God? Passion is an intense emotional drive, directed in this case towards God, resulting from a recognition of my need for him. I want you to listen with your heart. Living your Christian life without a passion for God will keep you from advancing spiritually. When we fail to advance spiritually, it's called spiritual immaturity. And spiritually immature people make mistakes all their lives and make a mess all their lives, even though they are Christians. So living your Christian life without a passion for God will keep you from advancing spiritually, but worse than that, in turn, it will keep you enslaved to your own sinful nature that you dislike. Listen, I'm a pastor. No different from you. I need to love God as much as I am teaching you to love God. And I'll tell you, when you don't love God the way you should, the old flesh, the old nature kicks in and wants all kinds of things, all kinds of habits that at times we know is wrong. It will keep us enslaved when we do not advance spiritually. And without a passion for God, we will not advance spiritually. Most Christians hate going back again and again to certain behaviors in their lives they know is wrong. But they also sense their weakness to change it or stop it. Listen, I'm guaranteeing you, a passion for God will kill it. If you have anger that you fall back to every now and again, a passion for God will kill it. If you have any other character issue, character flaws that you know is wrong but you can't stop it, you don't know how to stop it, a passion for God will kill it. Because when your passion for God develops, the flesh is starved. It can't do what it wants to do. Passion for God is not something that you ignite and leave to burn on its own. A passion for God must be daily fueled lest it burns out. You see, I don't want to stand here and teach you how to have mountaintop experiences and then valley experiences. When you finally arrive at the place where you're passionate for God, you got to be careful to maintain it, to nurture it, because you can actually lose it. You can actually become mediocre again. And I thank God that I've been preaching now almost 30 years, and I'm still as passionate about the Lord and ministering the gospel as I have been from the first day I started. But it's not like I go and take an injection and say, please, I'm running low, pump it in. Oh, I'll teach you down the road how to keep that passion for God. Anyway, just to let you know that this is scriptural that I'm talking about. Romans chapter 12 and verse 11 says, never be lacking in passion serving the Lord. Never be lacking. In other words, our service to God, our devotion to God should never be out of duty because I know it's something I must do or else. It should be a zeal. It should be something you look forward to. It should be something you can't wait to do. You do it in the night and then you go to bed and you tell yourself, I can't wake up. I can't wait until I wake up in the morning to worship the Lord again. Deuteronomy chapter 6 and verse 5 says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength. You see, as we're going to learn over the next few weeks, a divided heart will never become passionate for God. Because you can only be passionate about one thing at a time. In other words, with the complete you, everything has to be involved. It's not half here and half there. It's not I want you, God, but I want something else. It's I'm in this with all that I am. Psalms 27 and verse 4 says, one thing I desire. We all have desires. It says, from the Lord, and this also do I seek. The psalmist says, one thing I desire. He says, and this only do I seek. Desire, seek. A passion for God comes when you not only desire Him, but you seek Him. Desire is an emotion. Seek is the act of will, where I will actually get up and do what I desire. If not, it won't happen. He says that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze on the beauty of the Lord and to seek Him in His temple. So when we talk about developing a passion for God, we must understand that we can possibly have the greatest desire inside our souls to become passionate for God. But if you don't jump on that desire and act it out, it's not going to happen. As a matter of fact, you're going to even lose the desire to become passionate for God. Psalms 84:10. One day spent in your house, talking about church. One day spent in your house, this beautiful place of worship, beats thousands of days spent anywhere else. I'd rather scrub the floors in the house of my God than to be an honored guest in the place of sin. Imagine the passion the psalmist is exhibiting in these words. He says, God, I'm looking forward to going to your house, the sanctuary, the temple, the place of worship. And I don't have to be under the lights, Lord. I'm not going there for a position. That's not what I'm looking for. They can ask me to even scrub the floor. I don't have a problem with that. I am not looking for a position. I'm looking for presence. I'm not looking just to be seen, to be known. God, I'm passionate about going to your house because I want to connect with you. I want to experience you. I want to know you. He says, give me just one day in the house of God rather than 1,000 in the place of sin. Where's the place of sin? The world? Where is your heart? Do you passionately look forward to Sunday to come and worship the Lord? Honestly and truly, can you count the hours, count down? Can you look forward to say today is Saturday, tomorrow is Sunday, I'll be there. Hell and high waters, hot sun or rain. I am going to be in the house of the Lord. That exhibits passion. Psalms 42, 1 and 2. As the deer pants for water. You know, the deer really wants water. Loves water. But then it dawned on me. That deer will travel miles and miles and miles for water. Not because it's crystal. Not because it's beautiful. Not because it's delicious. That deer realizes without water, he's dead. The psalmist says, as the deer pants for water, I want to drink God. I don't just want God because he is good, because he is kind, because he blesses. I want God, like the deer, recognizes that the deer without water is dead. My life without God is dead. He says, I want to take deep breaths of God. I'm thirsty for God. I wonder when I'll ever make it to arrive and drink in God's presence again. Amazing. You know, it startles me that people in the Old Testament was more passionate for their God than people now in the New Testament church. And yet we are the ones that have a fuller revelation of God. Psalm 63, 1 through 3 says, God, you are my God. I can't get enough of you. Think about it. This message today is just an introduction. The psalmist says, I can't get enough of you. I've worked up such a hunger and thirst for God. Here I am in the place of worship, eyes wide open, drinking in your strength and glory, in your generous love. I'm really living at last. My lips brim praises like fountains. You see, what the psalmist is actually doing here is describing an active, intimate relationship with the presence of his God. You see, if we get lost just in religion, what is religion? Religion is doing the same rituals over and over every Sunday. You come and you lift your hands when they tell you to lift it. You put it down when they tell you sit down when they tell you to sit down. You stand up when they tell you to stand up. You pay your tithe when they tell you to pay your tithe. You go home when pastor says good night. That's religion. But the psalmist is not expressing religion here. He's expressing a relationship. He says, God, I've tasted of you. You are so sweet. Not even my husband, my wife can touch you. You're too good to be true. I'm hungry. I want more of you. I know this sounds strange to you, but do you know it's possible? It's possible. When you make yourself available for a relationship with God, you will only get thirstier and hungrier. Because we will never be able to, the only time we will get to know Him truly in His fullness is when we see Him face to face. For now, one encounter will give us a hunger for another encounter over and over again. What about Daniel? You see, a passion is an emotional drive that leads for us to act on it. The book of Daniel chapter 6 and verse 10, it says, when Daniel learned that the decree had been signed and posted. What decree? Very beautiful story. Here was a Jewish man. 3 other friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and under the bed you go. That's what Pastor Evans says, and I just think it's a beautiful thing. 4 Jewish people that were exiled into captivity. They weren't even in their own land. They were exiled. They were in slavery, in bondage. And the rulers at that time knew that Daniel was a committed, passionate follower of his God. So they went and they said to King Neb, "O king, we're going to formulate a letter and all you need to do is sign it. And here's what the letter is going to say, King Neb. Every knee must bow to you in worship. And anyone that does not worship will be killed." Now, which king wouldn't want to hear that? You know, they thought themselves to be God. But this was the same king that actually God had to humble. He became an animal in his own backyard, growing nails as long as eagles, feathers like eagles, and he ate grass in his backyard for 7 years until he learned that God was above all gods. Well, when the king signed that, they thought Daniel was doomed forever. He's going to die. What did Daniel went home to do? He continued, the Bible say, to pray just as he had always done. Nothing changed for him. The Bible says his house had windows in the upstairs that opened towards Jerusalem. If somebody is threatening your life, what would you do with your window? Daniel heard that he was about to die. Instead of going to lock his window and hide under the bed, the Bible says he went and he opened his window. Hear me if you need to hear me, please. I'm about to pray and I'm going to do it 3 times a day. The Bible says he prayed 3 times a day there in prayer, thanking and praising his God. What was his prayer? Thanksgiving and praise. You talk about passion. Passion for his God. Not even his death threat calmed down his passion. It's possible, brothers and sisters, to become passionate about God. You know, when people mock us and persecute us, when people call us names, when people avoid us because we're a Christian and we try to live the Word of God, the natural human nature response is to tell yourself, behave yourself. Calm down. Don't be stupid. You'll be a lone ranger. And then you compromise your faith and you go back and you share with the people in the world. Daniel didn't do that. Daniel's passion was there before he went to captivity. It was there while he was in captivity. And 2 kings died and he was still there with his passion. Does God really see that kind of passion? Yes, He does. He honors it, actually. And I want to show you that. In 2 Kings chapter 10, verse 16 and 17. The Bible tells us about King Jehu. King Jehu said to Jehonadab, he says, come with me and see my passion for God. You see, this is not just telling somebody you have passion. Come see my passion for God. My passion is not just a lip thing that I'm talking to you about. You see, when you have passion, it shows. King Jehu says, come with me, Jehonadab. I want to show you my passion for God. Then he had him ride along in his chariot. When King Jehu came to Samaria, he killed all who were left there of Ahab's family. He destroyed them according to the word of the Lord spoken to Elijah. Let me give you a quick backdrop. You see, the Lord had already cursed the family of King Ahab for being one of the worst paganistic kings in the Israel history. And so, King Jehu wasn't the first king. King Jehu heard that God told Elijah, because of what Ahab did, you're going to kill his family line. Not one of them will stay alive because of his evil, wicked action. Jehu loved the Lord. Please listen to me carefully. If you go and read this story, you'll find out that Jehu was not a perfect Christian. He was not a perfect lover of God. The same scripture that tells us about Jehu's passion gives us some of his flaws. So it's not perfection that God is looking for. The Bible says when he heard about that, he said to Jehonadab, come, I want to show you how passionate I am about my God. He went to Samaria and he told a big fat lie. He said to the worshipers of Baal, I want you to come because I want to honor you in the presence of everyone. And King Jehu sent out and gathered all the prophets of Baal. The Bible tells us that the temple was bursting, could not hold much more because so many of the prophets came that worship Baal. They heard that King Jehu wanted to honor them and bless them. And they all ran into the temple. Well, listen, when the last one made his way into the temple, King Jehu said, you can go back and read it, lock the doors. Nobody escapes. Kill them all. Not one of the prophets of Baal was left. Jehu said, this is my passion for my God, to live his word. Not just hear it, but to do it. How do we show our passion for God? Not just to hear what Scripture says, but to live it every day. That's how we show passion for God. Jehu said, I heard what the Lord said. Now I'm going to live it. And he killed all. Does God really honor our passion for him? Well, look at God's response to Jehu's action. In 2 Kings 10:30, here's what it says. The Lord said to Jehu, because you have done well in accomplishing what is right in my eyes, and have done to the house of Ahab all I had in mind to do, your descendants will sit on the throne of Israel to the 4th generation. When we pay the price to develop a passion for God, the blessing that God pours upon us will outlive us. Our descendants will find God, love God, and God's blessing will rest upon them. God said to Jehu, you will be dead and gone, But I'm promising you, up to the fourth generation of your children, your descendants, will be blessed by me because of your passion. John 6:68. You see, let me just say this. Don't waste your time planning for your kids, how much you can leave behind for them and bless them and prepare the way for them. That's God's job. Your job and my job is one thing. Come what may, in front of my kids, I will be passionate for God. I will love God, commit to God, dedicate myself to God. That's our job. God's job is when we're gone, He will see to it that our descendants are blessed after us. John 6:68 and 69. Peter replied, Master, to whom should we go? There are many, many ways in Scripture that it tells us that Peter, the disciple of Jesus, was passionate about the Lord. But here's one of them. When the whole little world surrounding Jesus was turning their backs on Him, because Jesus said, and I'm paraphrasing here, Jesus said, today you have to make a commitment. It's no longer just about healing and feeding you with bread and multiplying bread. It's no longer just casting out demons out of your body. I now demand that you make a commitment to me. Follow me. The Bible says, paraphrasing in John chapter 6, paraphrasing, it says, everyone walked away from Jesus and went back home. And Jesus turned to the 12 disciples and said, what about you? What are you going to do? And Peter answered Jesus and said, we've already committed ourselves to you. He was passionate about God. How passionate? The Bible says when the soldiers were coming to arrest Jesus, Peter took out his sword and he sliced off the ear of a man called Malchus. And the ear fell to the ground. Jesus picked it up, slapped it back on his face, and told Peter, put up your sword. He says, because if you use the sword, you'll die by the sword. But that demonstrated how passionate Peter was to his God. Can you, without opening your mouth, demonstrate to your friends and your co-workers that you're passionate about your God? Can you show them by the choices and decisions you make every single day that you have a passion for God? I'll help you to develop that passion over the next few weeks, because God blesses those who are passionate towards Him. In Luke chapter 10, verse 38 through 40, as Jesus and His disciples were on their way, He came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to Him. She had a sister called Mary, who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what He was saying. It's funny that your family might interpret your passion for God as foolishness and laziness, because that's what Martha did. Martha went to Jesus and said, Jesus, look at my lazy sister. We have so many things to do around here, and she's flat on her butt listening. Jesus said, she's doing what I want her to do. I need her to do, and I'd like for you to do the same thing too. It's funny that people won't like you when you become passionate for God, but guess who loves you when you become passionate for God? He does. Why was Mary sitting at Jesus' feet? Well, let me tell you why. Mark chapter 14, verse 3 and 4 says, while He was in Bethany reclining at the table in the house of Simon the leper, a woman came with an alabaster jar of very expensive perfume. I suggest to you that this woman was the same Mary that was sitting at Jesus' feet. This woman, in another scripture, is Mary Magdalene, who Jesus cast 7 demons out of. No wonder she was passionate. The Bible said out of her prostitution, she had an expensive jar of perfume. How expensive? 1 year's wage. What's a year's wage for a nominal laborer today? $30,000, $40,000 for the year? That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. Mary took a year's wage, broke it in front of everybody, and started to anoint Jesus. Guess what the rest of the people says? My, I knew all along you were stupid. I just didn't realize how stupid. How in the world, Mary, would you take 1 year's money and break it on the ground and anoint Jesus? Don't you know we could have fed the poor for a year with this? It's amazing when you're passionate for God. People think you're the silliest person on earth. People think you're foolish. That Mary that sat at Jesus' feet was the same Mary that lived a life of prostitution, that Jesus blessed and healed and delivered. And Mary didn't see the perfume as anything expensive. It was just an act of worship. God, how can I not be passionate about you after all you've done for me? Have you ever pondered the cross of Christ? Because if you ever think deeply and meditate on what happened on that cross, there's no way you can live a mediocre Christian life. He's done too much for us. In John chapter 2, verse 13 through 17, Jesus traveled to Jerusalem. He found the temple packed with people selling cattle and sheep and dove. Jesus put together a whip, chased them out of the temple, stampeding the sheep and cattle, upending the tables and spilling coins left and right. He said, get your things out of here. Stop turning my Father's house into a shopping mall. Listen what Jesus said. Passion for your house consumes me. Even Jesus, while on earth, for the sake of redemption, was completely passionate about his God. He did not tolerate things that should not be done in God's place. Now today, God's place is not this building, it's you. You and I are the temple of God. We are the ones that should make sure that God's presence stays on our lives. Titus 2. For the grace of God has appeared that offers salvation to all people. It teaches us to say no. Can you say that with me? No. I couldn't say no. There are some people that can't say no. Their friends mean more to them than God. Their business mean more to them than God. Things mean more to them than God. The Bible says it teaches us to say no. It teaches us to say no to worldly passion. You see, if we have worldly passion, we will never have godly passion. They don't cohabitate. They don't go together. And so, to develop a passion for God, we must be willing to let go of the passion of this world. It says, and to live self-controlled, upright, and godly lives in this present age. And I left this for last because I think nothing depicts passion more than Joseph in the Bible. Joseph was the youngest of his siblings, disliked and hated by all his siblings. One day God gave him a dream, and long story short, the dream came to pass. He was mistreated, he was abandoned, he was left to die, he was enslaved, he was chained, he was lied about, he was even tempted. The wife of his master, Potiphar, came to him one day and said to him, sleep with me. But Joseph refused. Look, he told her, my master trusts me with everything in his entire household. No one here has more authority than I do. He has held back nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. Now listen carefully. How could I do such a wicked thing? it would be a great sin against God. Joseph could have said, Potiphar's wife, the idea sounds quite entertaining, but I might lose my job, and I really don't want to go beg. I really don't want to go back into slavery. I don't want to go be a shepherd. I don't want to go and try to strive to just put something in my mouth. I have a good job. That would have been a perfect excuse, don't you think? But that wasn't his concern. His concern was his relationship with God. Potiphar's wife, here is why I can't do this. If I do this, my relationship with my God comes to zero. That's passion for God. When you say no to flirties out there, whether male or females, don't just say no, let them know why. I'm not only married, I don't only have a wife, I have a God whom I love that forbids this kind of action. That's passion for God. If you have to die single, then die single. If you have to die sulking, try to get your marriage fixed, but don't go and jeopardize your relationship with God.